Hello besties, welcome back to my channel. I haven't done a reading vlog in a hot second, but we're starting one today. I do want to talk about the book that I picked up and started last night, which is Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. Now this is a book, when was this even published? I'm pretty sure this was published in 2015, so it's been almost a decade since this book came out, which is a little crazy, but this is one of Cassandra's more popular intros to her more popular series, The Infernal Devices. Now I've read a lot by Cassandra Clare in, I think, late middle school, early high school. I read the entire trilogy of The Infernal Devices, I read all the Mortal Instrument books, I read the Dark Artifices books, but out of everything that she's written, my favorite has always been the Infernal Devices series. So I've had this book for a while because I knew I wanted to reread it for a while, and on my fall TBR, or in that video, I decided that I wanted to add this to my TBR this year. But then last week I went to Half Price Books and I picked up the sequel, which is on my shelf over there. And so now that I have the sequel, book 2 in the trilogy, I'm like, well, I need to pick this up so I can get to that one. Anyway, all that to say, I've been really inspired to pick this one up recently. This cover I think is actually super gorgeous. It is reflecting a little bit of pink from my roommate's sheets, but like it has this beautiful, very mid 2010s type of cover. But I love the picture of wool at the bottom. I think it's just beautiful, and then the spines all match up for the other ones in the series. Anyway, super pretty edition. But I want to talk about this book because it's a book from my childhood, and I wanted to check and see if this book stands up. I give it 5 stars. In fact, I gave the entire series 5 stars when I first read it years ago, and I remember really loving these, especially compared to the other books in the series, or in the other series by Cassandra. Cough cough, Mortal Instruments were not my thing personally, but I really enjoyed these. However, I didn't know if it would stand up over time. Me being older, having read a lot more, I don't know if it would still compare to that 5-star rating that I gave it when I was younger. We will just have to see. I will say I'm currently about 60 pages in, so 12% of the way through this book, since it's almost 500 pages. It's just honestly so enjoyable. Part of it is the nostalgia factor that I haven't read these books in like 5, 6, 7 years, but I do remember the characters still. Obviously, I have my favorites, and as I'm reading more, the different scenes and what's happening and the different characters that are more like secondary are coming back to me, you know? And that's what I love about rereading books. We don't do it enough. We really don't, okay? I do it a little bit, but I should do it more often. I like reading new things and of course checking off books off my TBRs and things like that, but going back to old ones that we know are good and that are in our comfort zone are always so much fun. So I'm really tangenting right now. All I'm saying or trying to say is that I'm really excited about reading this because I really want to get the feels that I had when I first read it, and we'll just have to see over the course of this vlog if it really holds up to the standard that I gave it whenever I was younger. I just went and got a bagel. This is actually the size of my head. This could be lunch and dinner. It's like doused in honey. Taste test. Okay, genuinely could do without the honey. It's fried chicken, egg, honey, bagel. I think I could do without the honey, make it less sticky and messy, but wow, that's really good. Anyway, that is so not the point of this clip. I want to talk about Clockwork Angel, but I'm just going to put a picture on the screen so I don't have to get my sticky fingers all over the book. It's Friday, by the way. Happy Friday. I haven't vlogged in a couple days because I've just been so busy with schoolwork and meetings and stuff, but I wanted to chat about this book because I have been reading this in my spare time, and I think I'm a little over halfway through the book right now. It's actually so good. Like, it's so good. We have a good fantasy plot. Like, you can understand the world very quickly. It's not difficult to comprehend, but I like the politics going on between the shadow hunters, the mortals, which they are called mundanes, and the other different types of magical people like demons and vampires and werewolves. Like, those kinds of characters people are very familiar with because it's so popular, especially in this era of like early 2010s. What's what I'm thinking of? Paranormal fantasies. Like, this is very much like in that era. The characters are really lovable. I love Will. Will Herondale has my heart and will always have my heart. Don't worry. I love Jem too. This is a love triangle, by the way. I love Jem. He's such a pure character, but I just have such a soft spot for Will. well. I know that both of them have such complex stories and complex problems, and it's such a good way that Cassandra Clare writes. You can tell that she's a good author because she just adds so much depth into their characters, and a lot of it at this point in the series is, like I said, not known. If you've never read the series before, I do know it, but just remembering these things is just reminding me like, I just have so much love for these characters. I wouldn't say it's like an epic fantasy. I think it's a little calmer than that, partly because it is set in a historical time period. This is set, I think, the late 1800s and in London, so there's a lot of like high society things. But I've learned recently this year that I like that kind of stuff, and even just simple conversations between the characters. You can tell that every page and every conversation and every moment in the book is deliberate and it means something, and it was crafted specifically in such a way that everything flows together, which, okay, is that the point of like a book in general? Yes, but that's like the best way I can explain it. Like everything just feels intentional and well crafted, and this is honestly gearing up to be a 5-star read. Like genuinely, I think it may hold up to the rating that I gave it whenever I was 13, which is insanity. I will say that also, just a little side note, Tessa is our main girl character. I really like her as a character. She's very smart, she's pretty witty, she won't stand up for any BS, you know, but I will say also that she has a little bit of internalized misogyny, but I guess like it's part of the cultural and historical context because like it is 1800s London. Like obviously at that point women are not treated as equally as men, so whenever she sees the shadow hunters and the girls are fighting in the trousers and the gear just like the guys are, she sees them and she's like, what's going on here? Like, I'm confused why the girls are also doing this. The girls shouldn't be violent. At first I'm like, girl, stand up, okay? You can fight just as well as the guys can. But I get that it's a historical context thing, and she will definitely get over that like very quickly because all the other shadow hunters are like, girl, it's not that big of a deal. Like even they're telling her like, girl, it's fine, put your gear on, come fight, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's just really, really good. I wouldn't say it's wholesome, but it is warming a little part of my heart because it reminds me of my childhood a little bit, and I'm recommending it to my sister ASAP, like ASAP. I'm gonna go eat my delectable but incredibly messy bagel, and I will catch you guys later. Hello, happy Saturday evening. I wanted to film all day, but I live on a college campus and there's a football game outside that window all day, blaring music. It was driving me up a wall. I wanted to film this, I wanted to film a voiceover, couldn't do either of it, but now it's finally night, so they're all gone, thank the Lord, and I can film this. But I wanted to talk about Clockwork Angel because actually this morning I finished this book at around 10 a.m. and can we get a drum roll please? This is a 5-star read. This was a 5-star read, and I can't believe that I'm saying this because at the beginning of this video I didn't think that this was going to hold up to my 13-year-old rating. I think I was 13 when I read this the first time, but no, it absolutely stands up. This is so good. Now, part of this may be the nostalgia speaking, part of this may be the fact that I'm remembering the first time that I read it and that's what's making me love it so much, but genuinely I think this is a really well-written book. And I was reading the comments on Goodreads, or the reviews on Goodreads, of what people were saying about this book, honestly dragging this book a little bit. They were saying the writing isn't good or that they just didn't care about the characters, so maybe people have differing opinions, but genuinely this is like the best Cassandra Clare has ever written as of what I've read by her. I like the characters, and honestly I think they are well developed in this book. I tried to look at it with a critical eye, not just a nostalgic eye, and I feel like they were well developed. I honestly was surprised by a couple things that I'd forgotten from the first time I was reading, and I also didn't put the pieces together in my brain. In hindsight, maybe I should have put the pieces together, but I didn't, you know, it shocked me, some things in here. I love the relationships in here. I like the love triangle. I do know what each love interest is dealing with, so it makes me hard to dislike them. I mean, I can't dislike, I love them, but I get why they get criticism, especially from like Tessa's point of view, because for example, Will is difficult in this book, okay? He's really, really difficult, but as someone who knows what happens, my heart just breaks for him, so I can never be mad at him, you know? And if you finish the series, you also will never be mad at him or Jem. Like, they're just precious. They're so precious. 5 stars. Incredible. Incroyable. This is my 64th book of the year, and I've only read 6 or 7 5-stars. So that's about 10% of the books that I read are 5 stars, and this made it up there. So 13-year-old me had good taste, and that's how I'm gonna leave it. I want so badly to jump into book 2, Clockwork Prince, which I have right here. These covers, y'all, this is just gorgeous. I'm sorry. This is stunning. We got the angel up here. We have Jem and his beautiful violin. I want to jump into this immediately because I'm in the story, I'm in the world, you know, and I want to keep reading. But for the sake of the vlog, it wouldn't be good content if I just read one series for an entire video. So unfortunately, I'm not going to continue this one now. I'm going to probably read one more book for the vlog, vlog, and then I'll come back to this one afterwards. I'll be back, I promise, I promise. I want to pick up one of two other books, and I want to mention first too, I have not read much fantasy at all this fall. The last fantasy book that I read was For the Wolf, which I read in September, I want to say, and then the past month and a half I've been avoiding fantasy because that's what put me in a book slump in the first place. I just feel that a lot of fantasy books recently have all been the same. It's all trials, it's all enemies to lovers, it's all, you know, girl gets powers and she didn't know that she had them. It's all the same plot. And trust me, okay, it usually does work with me. I love those tropes, like it's good plots, but when everything is starting to be the same, I need something else. I need something else, which is why this entire fall, I wish I could be fantasy girl fall, but I'm not. I've been contemporary romance girl fall until I picked up Cassandra Clare. So I have two fantasy books that are on my immediate TBR shelf that I want to pick up. Option one is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is the sequel to Six of Crows, which really love that book. 4.5-star book. I love Six of Crows, and I have the sequel here. It's the only duology, so this finishes out that story. I don't have to like introduce myself to a new world, learn a new magic system. Like, I know what's happening here. I just have to pick it up and get rolling with it. It's about 530 pages, so I'm like, should I pick this up? Maybe this is option one. Option two is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Oh, this is the same author. I didn't think about that. These are both by Leigh Bardugo, but the second option is The Familiar. This is the book that came out this year by her. It's a historical fantasy with a little bit of romance in it, and I think this one has a little bit of vampires in it. And I also think this has a lot to do with Spanish. Is it the Spanish Inquisition? It does take place in Madrid. I don't know what year though. Anyway, historical Spanish context in here. So that's like super interesting plot. And I'm really curious because I've heard a lot of mixed feelings about this book and I want to know what my thoughts are. So these are my two options. Now, since I'm already in the middle of this series, I would be leaning towards this way, but this book is shorter. This book is only 370 pages, although they are taller pages because it's a hardback, but this one technically is shorter, and I'm not gonna lie, I want to get into this one ASAP. So I'm a little torn as to what I want to read next, but you guys will see in the next clip whatever I pick, and we'll get into another fantasy world by Leigh Bardugo. Good morning, happy Sunday. The lighting outside is kind of weird. It keeps going in and out with the clouds, so I get these like stripes on my face and then they go away every like 10 seconds. So apologies for the weird lighting, but I wanted to talk to you guys about the book that I started, which is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I told you guys last night I was going back and forth between the two, but I decided to do this one because number one, I'm intrigued about this plot, and number two, it's the shorter book, and like I said, I want to get to Clockwork Prince ASAP. So we're gonna read the shorter of the two. I got 50 pages in. I'm at page 52, and I'm already at the end of chapter 8, about to start chapter 9, so the chapters go by super fast in this. And that's one of my favorite parts about this, I think. This book is very quick and like fast to go through, not because it's like an easy read, because I do think that her writing isn't complex, but it has a lot of like depth to it. It has a lot of richness, so it's not like an easy to absorb kind of writing style. You know, you do have to like read every line, and every line is worth its weight in gold, but I think that it's fast paced because the chapters are so quick and you are just getting to each scene very swiftly, which I appreciate because I'm in a screenwriting class right now in college and I'm writing my own script for a short film, and I'm understanding that not only do you have to make sure that every moment counts, otherwise you have to cut it out of the script, but also specifically for a short film you want to make sure that seriously every moment has to be incredibly useful to the plot or for character growth. So I'm understanding more and more basically how authors have to really be mindful about what they're putting in books. I can appreciate their work more and more, and that's why I really like Leigh Bardugo's writing style, because her words are just amazing. It's not even lyrical and beautiful, it's not overly complicated, but I just like how she tells stories. I think that it's descriptive, you understand the characters, there are little jokes in there, there's little wittiness in it, and this is a historical book too, so there's like little bits of historical truths that are mixed into this fantasy world that I'm really appreciating. I wanted to also talk about, I have like a little list up here what I wanted to say. Number 2, the plot, it's interesting. So it's not taking place during the Spanish, I don't know what I said last night, it's Spanish Golden Age, I think, in Madrid, 1500? I don't know. Put the right time period somewhere on the screen here. Wow, this lighting is cool toned. Hopefully I can fix that in editing. That's really annoying. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff in here about religion because I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was explicitly stated, but it's definitely hinted at that Lucia is a Jew, or she at least has Jewish ancestors. And so in Madrid during this time, that was absolutely against the law. You had to be Catholic. And so right now she is going to like mass and like Christian services, but definitely the history of her Jewish ancestry is like a problem. And if it gets found out, then she'll get taken away. There's also the issue of magic. So she does have magic, and the magic that she says is when she sings these little like verses that I think are in Spanish, she can grow plants, or she can put glass back together, or like make fire go like up into the sky. You know what I'm saying? So little things, but it's very impressive. So those are like the elements that are being mixed in. I also think there's going to be some element of vampirism in here. I haven't gotten to that point of the book yet, but just from what I've heard, that's what I've seen online, is that there is that element in there. So that could be totally wrong, but that's what I'm expecting at some point to kind of pull together. We have just met a character who I think I said like 2 lines, but he gives vampire vibes. So maybe we're going to get some of that in there. And then I also heard that this is Leigh Bardugo's most romantic book. So there is supposed to be a romance somewhere in here. We haven't started it yet. We don't know who the love interest is, unless it's maybe the person that I'm thinking of, maybe, but that's really just a long shot. I have no clue. What's interesting though, and I really appreciate this about her writing, is that Leigh is not afraid to say something like raw and to say something like almost callous when describing a character. Like for example, the main girl in here, Lucia, when we were first introduced to her, she's described as smelling like mold, and she's a poor little scullery girl. And it's said from the point of view of a different character, but then when we switched to her point of view, I was like, oh, that was you? Like usually when we have a heroine, it's like, you know, someone beautiful or someone smart, even if they're not like, you know, physically attractive, they will still be described with some nice terms. Like maybe she is a working, helpful scullery maid. I don't know, something else, you know? But no, literally they were like, she's pudgy and smells like mold. And I was like, oh, okay. Good for Leigh Bardugo, I guess. She is not afraid to like, you know, say something a little shocking, I guess, a little out of the ordinary, but also, you know, not every heroine has to be like impeccably beautiful or impeccably genius or anything. Like that's totally okay. I just thought it was a little funny. And I do think Lucia is a great character. She's not afraid to speak her truth, speak her mind, you know, and she is a maid and she does have to keep herself hidden a lot of the time and like hide in her invisibility because that's what protects her. However, the few moments where she does speak out, well, I'm like, ooh, you kind of ate them up. And yeah, that's my update for now. This lighting for this entire clip has been very weird. I have these stripes, it's kind of blue. Hopefully in color editing I can fix all of this. But yeah, that is my update. Hello, happy Monday. So I am about to leave for class in like 5 minutes. So this is gonna be a really quick update, but I wanted to talk about The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo because oh my God, guys, oh my God. I didn't think I was gonna be this obsessed with this book, but I talked to you guys yesterday morning. So like a little over 24 hours later, and I am 60% of the way through this book. Like I'm flying through this. I'm on page 228, and it might not seem crazy to read 228 pages in like a day, but I was working yesterday. I was busy. I had things to do. I was focusing on my new favorite craft that I'll tell you about in just a second. And I was doing things, you know, I didn't have all day to read this. And yet I, for some reason, squeezed 228 pages into my brain. I was just flying through it. Now, I can't tell you why. I really can't. It's just really good. Like it's interesting. It's different. And I did find out, unfortunately, that this book actually does have a trials plot in it, which is so funny because I was talking earlier this week about how I didn't want to read fantasy books with like trials and games and tests because it's all the same. I still stand on that. I really do. But I would say that this book, the percentage of the book that is about the trials is like 20, maybe 25%. Like there's so much more to this book than just the trials aspect of it. So genuinely eating this up so fast. It's just really good. Is the romance something crazy? No. Is there like a bunch of on-page chemistry? No. Is the magic easy to understand? No. Are the characters likable? Not all of them, really. No. But something about this is really, really addicting. The romance, it's minimal, but it's there and I like it. I like how obsessed our love interest is with Lucia. I'm enjoying the plot of this book. It's so interesting. It merges magic and fantasy with real history stuff like Golden Age, Spanish Inquisition. That was the right time period that I mentioned a couple nights ago, around the 1500s, and Catholicism versus Judaism, like that aspect of it, and also social class and climbing social class and being a scullery maid versus being someone high with power and how you want to use use what you can to escape a situation. Like, there's just so much to this. It's so original. It's so different. That's what I need in books these days, something that's different and original. So I'm absolutely obsessed with this. I'm flying through it. I love Leigh Bardugo's writing style. It's amazing. Every little thing, they're little jokes, little snippets from different point of views that just make me happy. There's a scene from a certain playwright's point of view that's like a callback to a joke at the beginning of the book. And that I think, because I know Leigh and I know that she is very genius in her writing, I think there might be something that calls back to this character later in the book as well. Not just for comedic effect, it's there for actual plot reasons too. Anyway, it's just so much. It's so much. And I have been annotating, which is kind of funny because they are sprayed edges and the edges are black. So you might not be able to even see the annotations, but I'm using like red and gold and beige tabs. You see the color palette, you see the vision. I know you do. It's so good. And I'm very glad that in a vlog about reading fantasy books that I haven't read in a month and a half, I'm glad that I have found two absolutely phenomenal fantasy books that are really propelling me out of that slump. Like, I think I've been out of the slump for a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks now, but I'm really out of the slump. I'm reading so fast and I love reading. It's the best feeling to have a good book. So I'm loving this. I'm loving this. I also want to say last thing is, I don't know if I said this yesterday, I've picked up cross stitching again. I used to cross stitch when I was younger. I did that a lot for like Christmas gifts and stuff. And for some reason, a couple weeks ago, I just got the inkling to cross stitch again. So I went to Michael's and got, wait, it's on my desk. Let me grab it. Okay, so the pattern is this. So it's like these little cherry blossoms coming down. I wouldn't say it's like beginner friendly because there isn't a pattern traced out on fabric. You kind of have to like count, but I mean, I can count. I've done cross stitching a lot before in my past. So I picked this up at Michael's on Saturday, and in the day and a half since then, I have done this much cross stitching, which, okay, it may not seem like much, okay, but if you look super close, there are a lot of small little detailed stitches in there. My mother is a quilter. She has a quilt shop, and so I've grown up knowing how to sew and do a bunch of different crafts with my hands. I mean, I also do art. Obviously, I draw. I have a bullet journaling channel if you guys didn't know, so I do a lot of like crafty things, but sewing, embroidery, hand stitching, cross stitching, this is something I haven't done in a couple years, I guess, so I love going back to this, and it's been my favorite thing this weekend to go back and forth between reading my book and then watching YouTube or The Office while cross stitching. Like, these are my favorite pastimes right now, so that's my update. I have to go to class. I'm gonna be late, but hope you guys are having an amazing Monday. I'm hopefully gonna finish this book, not today, probably, maybe today, definitely tomorrow. I'm so excited to talk about it. Hello, happy Wednesday. I'm here to finish out the reading vlog because earlier today I just finished The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, and I have so many thoughts still in my head because, like I said, I just finished this like a mere 45 minutes ago, and I don't want to spoil anything. Most of my thoughts are spoiler thoughts, which is the issue here. But all I want to say is the ending was phenomenal. I almost shed a tear. I didn't shed a tear, but I almost shed a tear. I think the plot of this is just incredible. I think it's so original. I like how she ended it. It was just all really good. My only critiques with this book is that, number one, the romance felt a little not flat for me because I think her writing is beautiful enough that every interaction between the two of them was like amazing, wonderful, beautiful, all the adjectives, but I think that I didn't really feel their connection as much. It was just kind of told to me. And then a couple other things, there were quite a few characters to keep track of, and that probably could have been, you know, cut down just a little bit, but those are really small, minor things. Overall, the writing in this is really good. The plot is so original, and I'm really glad that I have the physical version of this, because not only are the end papers, I've shown this to you guys before, they're just beautiful, like the pomegranates and stuff, and it actually does become like a plot device in the book, like the little pomegranates are a metaphor. And then also all of my annotations, can you even see them? Maybe if I hold it like this, you can kind of see the annotations on the side. Hopefully you saw that, but they like match the cover because they're all like gold, red, and beige, and I think it just looks really nice. So I'm glad I have a physical copy of this to commemorate my time reading it. But overall, I'm gonna give The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo a 4-star rating. Really good. A 4-star is really good for me. I'm very stingy with my 5 stars and 4.5s, so like take this as a good sign, but I really enjoyed this book. I'm not quite sure who to recommend this to, but if you like Leigh's writing in her other other books and you want something that's different than a normal fantasy book, like you want something that's going to be interesting and like nothing you've ever read before, a little bit of magic, a little bit historical, this is the one to pick up. So I really enjoyed this, and I'm glad that I read 2 books in this vlog that were really good and that I can get back into my fantasy era now because I've really missed these types of books. Speaking of, I think I've vlogged this, but yesterday I went to Half Price Books and I picked up Clockwork Princess, which is the 3rd book in the Clockwork trilogy that I read the first book of in the beginning of this vlog. So now I have the entire trilogy. I want to show you this cover as well. It's just as beautiful as the other ones. Lovely little Tessa there at the bottom. I'm so glad I have these in physical format as well, just to kind of finish out my collection, have them all together. So I'll likely be picking up book 2 in the series to read right after I finish this vlog. And if I continue vlogging, you guys probably see that in my next video. So if you want to see more content from me, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every single Thursday, and I have a lot of really fun content planned going towards the end of the year and into 2025. So I will see you guys next Thursday. And if you want to watch my most recent reading vlog, I will put it on the screen over here.